At the end of the last video, we had a section for each module, students studying, and we had one question and no means of answering it. Let's put in maybe two questions and give the students a means of answering. We'll start with one question. So, what did you think of it? Isn't one of the questions that we're asking. I'm just going to copy the text. Actually, when you do surveys, it's quite good to make statements. Instead of asking questions, you make a statement like staff. Good. I'm just copying this from a survey at explaining things. Okay, so you make that statement and you give the students an option to agree or disagree. Now, we need some HTML here. These are radio buttons. If I remember correctly, then it is select, but let's not rely on my vague memory. Let me look up some documentation. So I'm going to go straight to Google, and I'll show you how I would phrase the question. So here's me at Google. You can see I've got the answer there. All right, so what do I want radio buttons in HTML. Radio buttons. Radio buttons are those ones where you can only pick one option, as opposed to checkboxes. And you can see the query that I did previously. That query didn't work terribly well, but I'll go for it anyway. Radio buttons, HTML. MDN is the Mozilla developer network, and they usually have really good documentation. And let's see if they're any good. I followed this one before, and that was a big mistake. That was telling me about XUL, which I'm sure is jolly good, but it's nothing I'm interested in. I want XML. I want HTML, and XUL it's probably fantastic, but we're developing web pages. So radio buttons. I'm really looking for an example. It's kind of let me down here. It's got lots of stuff, but I'm not seeing an example, which is what I really want. Nah. I'm not seeing it. There's this input thing. There are just loads of different types of input, and MDN's let me down. I'm going to go back and sack MDN temporarily and find a simpler example. W3 schools, that's my backup. W3 schools, I don't like it much, to be honest, but it's not a bad backup when MDN lets me down like it just has. This kind of makes sense. I like this example. Okay, I like this example. I don't like the way HTML does this. I am a huge fan of HTML. I think HTML is absolutely brilliant, but this is pretty rubbish. What you do, if you give these things the same name, giving them the same name means that they're related. So I can click male, female, or other. And the reason that these are mutually exclusive is because they've got the same name, which is, I think it's pretty daft. Let me just show you. So supposing that's gender, and this one here is not called gender, or I spelled gender wrong, I spelled that gend, then these two are mutually exclusive, but this one isn't. Can you see? And so the fact that these are linked is through the name. This is not W3 School's fault. This is squarely lay this blame at Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Did a brilliant job, but this bit, not so much. Never mind, that's what we got, that's what we're going to use. Okay, so I want radio buttons like that. I've already got no, I haven't got a form. I kind of need to decide where I'm going to put my form. I'll manage without a form for the moment. This is wrong, but we can get away without a form just temporarily. Let me take this. Okay, so I'm going to take that option here, and I'm going to right-click, paste that in, and immediately I've got a whole bunch of real problems because of the quotes. I'm going to use single quotes on the outside and double quotes on the inside. So my PHP quotes are single quotes, and inside that I've got a whole block of HTML. So this is my HTML. Type is radio button. Name. Okay, so I'm going to have several questions, and this is about a particular module, and it's Q1. So if I put in Q1 there and Q1 here, this is question 1, and this is question 1. and the value is, so this value is, I think I'm going to go with numbers. So the value is 5 is definitely agree, and 4 is somewhat agree. How British is that? I somewhat agree that this module is okay. Okay, that's neutral. I'm copying this, by the way, from the paper version. Here it is here. So this is the paper version. Staff have made things, staff are good at explaining things, and I've got this DA. Is that MA? Mostly agree, not somewhat agree. That's less British. Mostly agree, neutral, mostly disagree, definitely disagree. And I'm going left to right. I'm not getting into any debates about whether good should be on the right or bad should be on the left. Good is a high number, bad is a low number. This is mostly agree. Nope. Let's replace that with mostly agree. N for neutral, and then yank that and paste. Okay, so this is option 2, that's option 1. This is mostly disagree, and this is strongly disagree. Okay. Alright, let's look at that. So that's one question for one module. Write that out. Reload. Okay. Yeah. I kind of want these, I don't want the, I've got these BRs here. Let's get rid of them. And here. And here. Okay, and reload. Okay. Now, it's not bad, but we've got some problems. Let me just show you. I can click on that, and these are behaving like radio buttons. But if I pick something here, can you see it took that one away? So this guy and these guys, you can only pick one for the whole thing. Why is that? That's because everything, all 3 modules have got the same, they've got in these inputs, I've got Q1 for all 3 modules, okay, which makes these things mutually exclusive, and I kind of want them grouped. The upshot is I have to have a different name, and that's how you spell explaining. I have to have a different name for each set of buttons, and that depends on the module. So I need to use different names each time. I am tempted to use the module code. The module code is quite well behaved. Module codes are always like this. My data is pretty good. The module codes are always 3 characters and 5 digits, and I think I can probably get away with putting that in the name. So let's do that. So I can put in $row 0. That's a module code. I definitely wouldn't want to use the module name there. Okay, and now my string interpolation is not working because I used these things here. I use single quotes on the outside and double quotes on the inside. That's going to be a real pain. Okay, let's keep going. So I typed in that. I'm going to do dot and dot and dot and dot. All of my quotes I have to change. All right, let's do a bit of Vim magic. So search for double quote, replace with single quote, and do that globally for everything on the line. Did that for that one there. I press dot, does it? No, it didn't. Undo. I thought I could do dot and it would repeat that, but it didn't. What about S? Oh, that's nice. No, it just did it once. S. Yeah. I can't be bothered with this. Let's change those quotes one at a time. Okay. All right. Replace dot 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 and dot 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 and dot dot dot. Okay, that Vim magic wasn't very impressive, was it? Okay, now I can use double quotes on the outside, replace that with double quotes, and the string interpolation will work its magic. So I've got double quotes on the outside, single quotes on the inside, and this row 0 value, that should be different for each block. All right, so these things here should be called Q1, but it'll be Q1 preceded by that. Let me just reload. No, I haven't saved. Write that out, reload, and now the names. So those radio buttons are mutually exclusive, and these ones here, these are mutually exclusive, and these are mutually exclusive. So I can pick different options for each one, and they're not totally interfering with each other. All right, let's see what happens when I wrap this lot into a a form, and try and submit that form. So I'm going to wrap the whole thing into a form. So print form, and close the form here. Print flash form. Okay, and let's put in a submit button as well. So print, I think it's input type equals submit, and see what the data looks like. We should be able to see it quite clearly. It'll come across on the on here. So reload. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. There's my submit button. Do the submit, and it went back. And this is not bad actually. I can see my data's there. So there's the CSN underscore Q1, and that equals 5. And here's INF blah 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 Q1 equals 4. I'm going to be able to pick this data apart and pull my answers out quite nicely. I take back those horrible things I was saying about Tim Berners-Lee. This is working just fine. Okay, I'm going to be able to process that really nicely. You'll notice that I've lost this thing here. So the data I'm posting back doesn't have the matriculation number anymore. So the data I'm getting from the form includes these details, but it doesn't include the module code. Now, I'm not necessarily committed to passing my data back and forth using this simple CGI mechanism. I'd quite like to do it using jQuery or something like that and make an AJAX call. But let's go with this for a bit. I'm going back to the same form that I started with. So I'm posting, or not posting, I'm doing a get command back on the original. That's index.html, so it's calling this thing again. My immediate problem is that while I have the answers to the survey questions, I don't have this thing. And there's a neat fix for that. I say neat, it's not a neat fix, it's an absolutely clunky, horrible fix. Okay, let's see the clunky, horrible fix. What I do is I have a hidden input variable, print, that went wrong, print, so an input variable, where was it, input, okay, its type is hidden, I don't want the user to see it. This is not securely hidden, it's just not visible. The user can always view source and see what your hidden variables are called, so you can't store anything secret, but the students know their own matriculation number. The name is going to equal u, because that's exactly the name that's the name of the parameter that I've used elsewhere, and the value is going to be $_request u. Now here's a weird thing in PHP. The string interpolation is the thing that lets you use this kind of syntax. You can use $variables inside doubly quoted strings, and it'll interpolate, it'll figure them out. When you do that with something like this, where I'm being indexed by a string, I put the u in and I don't quote the u. So anyway, upshot is write that out. Now, reloading here won't work, but if I go back and reload and choose my variables again, okay, when I click on submit, can you see the u parameter got added in and it's the right value, and I've posted this back and I've got the variables. It hasn't done my pre-selections here, but it has otherwise worked. So that's one question. There's a spelling mistake. Explaining stuff. I go down to and explaining things. Okay, reload. Okay, I'm liking that. Stuff are good to explain things. I guess I'd like this slot here to be up there, but aside from that, it's okay. Yeah, good. Next video we'll have a go at processing these responses.